Hey guys, welcome back to Steve the Painter, all things painting and drywall related. We're doing a bathroom ceiling today. So we're going to be talking about how to fix this cracking, peeling, blistering, general delamination from the base layer. You'll typically find this when improper prep was done from the very beginning. A lot of times you'll have an oil-based paint underneath all the current paint from the original paint job. And maybe it wasn't primed, or some very cheap products were used. And then to compound that, the area might not have very good ventilation, and all the moisture builds up and it causes this blistering, peeling, general delamination from that base layer. Now these walls are to remain untouched, so we're not going to be touching the corner tape. We're not going to be pulling that off. But we are going to try to save this ceiling without scraping everything off and stripping the whole ceiling, which oftentimes is what you have to do. But I'm going to be showing you guys a method to fix this without doing all that. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to get everything loose. Scrape off every loose edge you can find. These areas can get quite large when you get to scraping. Sometimes you'll get lucky and a lot of it will stay adhered, but you want to get everything that wants to scrape off easily, and you want to get it to where it doesn't want to come off anymore. Sometimes it'll be the base layer and sometimes it'll be an old repair like this spot right here. But you just want to make sure you're getting off as much as you possibly can. And this will always create a mess, so you want to, cover everything and have a shop vac ready. Hey, you should be a painter, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Psych, I'm just playing. It is kind of fun. So after a bunch of scraping, you'll probably end up with a lot of areas that look like this. And now the next step is you want to hit all the exposed edges of everything you just scraped with a binding primer. Now that base layer felt extremely slick to me even after scuffing it up. So I'm actually putting on a bonding primer instead of going straight to the binding primer. This is a product called Kills Adhesion, and the binding primer is called Peel Stop. Now that will adhere to oil base, but I'm not fully convinced that it'll adhere as well as this Kills Adhesion. So I'm just for good measure doing this bonding primer prior to the binding primer. And the only downside to this extra step is the added cost of the primer and the extra time waiting for more things to dry. And when you put these primers on, whether it be the bonding primer or the binding primer, you really want to work them into those open edges. The goal here is to keep any air from the drying repair work from escaping into that open crack. That will cause further delamination and another bubble. And these ain't happy bubbles like Bob Ross. We want these things gone. And this spot here is not down to the base layer. That's actually looks to me like an old repair. Probably didn't have the right primer. Never use a paint primer combo to prime repairs. It's always a good thing to know. Don't use a paint primer as a primer. It just doesn't perform as well. Unless you love running into issues like this. Now this is the Peel Stop primer I had mentioned, the binding primer. And this is just going to further seal those edges. And it's a really thick product. It's kind of made for peeling paint. It's a sealer. And now here we are waiting for everything to dry down. You want to give everything a little scuffing with some high grit sandpaper again after the primer. And once you get a few coats of that peel bond on, the next step is the repair work. Now, I like this little carpenter's trick of adding PVA glue or wood glue in a ratio of 1 part glue to 10 parts water. You mix it in with the hot mud, and it will not only help the durability, but it'll help the adhesion Now you do only want to do this on the first coat because this stuff will not sand as well. And now this is just me knocking down some of those edges on the first coat, which is really not that necessary, but when it's setting up, you can kind of get away with smoothing it out a little bit without having to create much dust. And one of the keys to fixing this type of issue is using fiber tape. You want to put fiber tape over all those exposed edges. And you want to extend that fiber tape, I would say at least 3 inches past the exposed edge. And you want to do that after the 2 coats of primer, whether it be the bonding primer or the binding primer. And you'll see what happens when I don't use fiber tape over an old repair area that looked a little suspect, and it caused issues after the 2nd coat of spackle where the oxygen did get through and cause bubbling. There it is. Now this is not a big deal, it's more just annoying. It's bound to happen with old repair work. And really, more primer, more fiber tape, and more patience is the key to getting rid of those. So you scrape out, you basically start over again. You scrape it all out again and you start the process over. And you got to do those bubbles. It's not that big of a deal. You just have to be patient. It's better than stripping the whole ceiling. And what you heard was my heat gun go in there. That is a way to speed things up, whether it be getting the primer to dry or getting your first coat of repairs to dry. You can use a heat gun to speed things up because this is a time-consuming job. Always mask up when you're sanding. These big liners always work well for catching overhead dust. You can also sponge sand a lot of this stuff, but personally I feel like the edges get smoother when you use sandpaper. All right, and the next step is this, which I never see anybody talk about. You want to block the moisture. So you want to put a moisture blocking primer on there, 2 coats of it. And that peel stop will not block moisture. It will help with the peeling, but not the moisture. So there we go. There's the ceiling with, this stuff is clear. You can hardly see that it's on there. It just makes everything look streaky. Now, the purpose of this is you don't want any future cracking or bubbling from that bad ventilation. So you need to block the moisture that's going to happen later on. And this stuff will also seal all the repairs, which is nice. Now this is duration paint. So you want to put 2 coats of a moisture blocking paint like Duration, or Aura Bath and Spa from Benjamin Moore is another good one. You want to use that over just a typical ceiling flat. You'll have much better results. And normally I would like a flat ceiling paint, but in this particular situation, it's better to go with a little sheen. A matte finish is as low as I would go on the sheen if you have this issue. If you like this content, guys, do me a favor and smash that like button. And don't forget to subscribe, and you'll catch all my tips and tricks. So quick recap. Get the area fully dry. Scrape every single thing loose that you can find. If you need to scrape to an edge, use a razor blade. Scuff the surface up. Apply 2 coats of a binding primer like Peel Stop. Go ahead and use a bonding primer first if you don't like that surface, if it's too slick. Scuff everything again. Then apply fiber tape, extending at least 3 inches past every exposed edge. It comes in different sizes. Apply a modified quickset or something like Durabond for your first coat. Apply a light joint compound like Easy Sand for your final coats. If it looks good, seal it up with 2 coats of guards, then hit it with 2 coats of a moisture-resistant paint. And then you're done. Don't worry about it anymore. Go do something else with your day. Catch you on the next one.